listen, Neil, there were some primaries last night. Do we even care about the primaries anymore? Don't they not matter?
Well, they don't matter, but there's a whole subplot playing out. Of course, Romney hasn't got the requisite delegate count yet. He's not far away. But what Republicans were making a big deal out of until even now was that Obama had a pretty bad showing himself in the Democratic primaries in Kentucky and Arkansas. He had tough competition in Kentucky from a guy named Uncommitted. In Arkansas, he had pretty tough competition from a lawyer, kind of perennial candidate who got 42% of the vote. And so the Republicans are tweeting about this and sending out press releases and everything else. The funny thing, though, kind of the flip side of it is that even in Kentucky, where Obama had competition from Uncommitted, he still managed to beat Mitt Romney. That is to say, he got 2,000 more votes than in the Democratic primary than Mitt Romney got in the Republican primary.
Neil,
yeah.
I don't know very much about primaries, but who even shows up at this stage? I mean, if you basically know what the race is going to be, give me the profile of the person who actually goes to the polls to vote for Uncommitted.
Well, there were, of course, a lot. Yeah, that's a good question. But there were a lot of other things on the ballot. So there's, other competitive races. But it's still the stalwarts. I mean, the people that go out and vote in primaries are the people that are the most committed to their party. In this case, there's also seems to be in these states, these are deeply red states. I mean, Arkansas, Obama lost Arkansas by 20 percentage points. So you can see how unfriendly that state is generally to him in 2008.
Now, Neil, you had a very interesting piece out today. I advise people to check it out on WSJ.com, in which you basically quote a pollster, I forgot exactly who it was, who basically said, never before will so much money be spent to try and persuade so few. I mean, this is coming down, at least as the pundits would say, to, maybe I don't know, what are we talking about, a few 100,000 votes, maybe 1 million votes in a few key states? Is that what we're really talking about here?
You know, we have this debt clock and people watch it and it's like you now personally and your children owe $30,000 to the federal government or whatever it is. In this case, it may be a similar tally for how much money will collectively be spent in this general election to move a very finite number of people in a very finite number of states. We're talking about 6 or so states, and within those states, we're talking about 5 or 6 counties that really matter in each state. So, yeah, $2 billion or so going to be spent on a few 100,000 people.
What does it say about the nation when our presidential elections come down to really a very small, call it minority or segment of people? Does it say that we are a nation divided, or does it say that there's really no difference between the two candidates?
Well, it says that we're a nation controlled by a weird thing called the Electoral College, which gives big attention to a finite number of states that are themselves closely divided states and that matter. And if we went by a popular election system, it would be we'd all be out in LA and New York and Dallas and places that get no attention as it is now. But is there a great difference between these candidates? Actually, I think this is one election where there are very stark differences between the futures or whatever that both candidates are sketching out, perhaps more so than we've seen for quite a long time.
Now, what about the state of Florida? Is Florida in play, as they say? Is Florida one of the key battleground states? And do we have any evidence of what's going on down there?
Well, Florida is one of the states where Obama can afford easily to lose it and have a whole bunch of other ways to win. Romney, if he loses Florida, is in really bad shape. Is it in play? I mean, there was a poll that came out this morning that showed Romney up about 6 points. Other polls have shown it a much more close. I think in the end it will be pretty tight, but more likely to tip to Romney than otherwise, which is one reason I think Obama is going to be spending way more time in Virginia, Ohio, Iowa, Colorado, states like that where he can carve out a victory path through those states.